In the last two videos that I made, we spoke about the operations of law in statutory law that are being brought forth or that are already present, which are giving the government and the government actors the power, the ability, the rights, and the privilege to force vaccination upon the population, upon the general public. More specifically, we first looked into the province of Alberta. We looked into the statutory law and we found the operations that are available for the government actors to use in order to force the population to accept vaccination. We have already seen that through these written laws, which were created by man, which were created by the government, they produced an operation of law, a power of law, that brought forth the right for the government actors to force vaccination. Now, whether individuals want to accept this or not, or create excuses and reasons in their mind as to how this cannot be so, we can see and we can verify in the statutory powers themselves, as we did in Alberta, that such operation of law has been created and does exist with the potential to be used in this pandemic of COVID-19. We should briefly take a look into Quebec and into the statutory powers of Quebec to see if the same operation of law is available for the actors in Quebec as it is in Alberta. The Quebec Public Health Act, Chapter 1, Article 1. The object of this act is the protection of the health of the population. Notice the subject or player, population, and the establishment of conditions favorable to the maintenance and enhancement of the health and well-being of the general population. Article 123 of this Act. It says, notwithstanding any provision to the contrary, while the public health emergency is in effect, the government or the minister, or if he or she has been so empowered, may without delay and without further formality, to protect the health of the population, Article subsection 1, order compulsory vaccination of the entire population or any part of it against smallpox or any other contagious disease seriously threatening the health of the population, and, if necessary, prepare a list of persons or groups who require priority vaccination. This is extremely clear. The way it's written in the statutory power, the action is as follows. They may order compulsory vaccination of the entire population. That's the operation of law that they have given themselves. That's the operation of law that is available to be used by the actors of the government. So we can clearly see that the law is in existence. And this law can be used, can be drawn up to create an order against perhaps yourself or your family members. And within that order, they will mandate the vaccination upon you. Now, what are you to do in this situation? Is all hope lost? Do you have to take the vaccination? Or is there an operation of law that's provided within the statutory law that opens the door up for an individual to defend himself? Always remember that your natural rights, your fundamental rights and freedoms, are an obligation for the government to protect and to respect. Thereby, it creates an obligation upon them to create operations of law, to make doors available for individuals who want to express these rights within the laws themselves. It does not mean that the government actors who sit in the position of authority will always honor their obligation, but nevertheless, the operation of law, the doorway, the path, is available for the individual. If the government actors decide to try to use this power, this operation of law, to force the complete vaccination of the entire population, it's not like they're going to come to your door with 20 men, with guns and ropes and chains, tie you down, and stick a needle in your arm. This is not going to be the case. Whether the order comes through paper or the order is delivered by an individual, you will have to present yourself to the place where the vaccinations are taking place. If you don't show up to be vaccinated, or if you don't give your consent and you refuse to be vaccinated, then they're going to tie you down to a chair, wrap chains around your legs and arms, and at this point, force the vaccination. No, not just quite yet. At this point, you will be taken to a court of law in order to be dealt with by a judge. This is where the operation of law that protects you as an individual, man or woman, your fundamental rights and freedoms, your natural rights and freedoms, is opening up, is becoming available for you to use. Article 126. If a person fails to submit to a vaccination ordered under Section 123, a judge of the Court of Quebec or the municipal courts of the cities of Montreal, Laval, or Quebec, having jurisdiction in the locality where the person is to be found, may order the person to submit to vaccination. In addition, the judge may, if satisfied on reasonable grounds that the person will not submit to the vaccination, and if of the opinion that the protection of the public health warrants it, ordered that the person be taken to a specific place to be vaccinated. Well, that latter part of the article of law is where I was talking about tying you down and forcing the vaccination. They can order you to be taken to a specific place and to be vaccinated. And if you still refuse, and you refuse physically, what other choice will they have but to tie you down and stick a needle in you? So if you refuse to be vaccinated, then the next step that the government actor will take will be to present you to a court of law in order to have you dealt with, in order to convince the judge that you should be vaccinated. Now in Article 126, notice that it says where the person is to be found may order the person to submit to vaccination. It doesn't say shall. If you understand the difference between shall and may in law, then you see what's going on here. May does not create an obligation. The word shall creates an obligation in law, but the word may creates an option. So here the judge has the option to force you to be vaccinated. For those who are just watching my videos recently, what I'm going to talk about here may be hard to wrap your head around. You're going to have to go and watch some of my other videos that I've made in the past. For those who have followed me over the years, what I'm about to say will make more sense to them because they understand the subjects and the players that are being brought forth in law, whether in statutory law or constitution. So here the article of law reads as follows. If a person fails to submit to vaccination, the person being spoken about here is a statutory creature. They're bringing forth a juridical personality in this operation of law in Article 126. And you can clearly see it by the end of the article of law, where it says that the person is in the locality and the person is to be found. Well, what do they mean by locality? They mean district or they mean municipality. So if you're in Montreal, Côte Saint-Luc, Quebec, Quebec City, no matter what city you are in, remember that you're incorporated into the body corporate through another statutory law. So therefore, you're operating as a statutory creature. So here, when they're talking about the locality, they're saying the city, but what they're really saying is the corporate body. So I'm going to stick with Montreal as an example. So Montreal would be the locality, and we also know that in law, Montreal is a corporate body. And the people living in Montreal, if you will say the individuals, the men and the women, through the statutory law, they have been incorporated into the corporate body designated Montreal. Thereby, when they're talking in this verse of the locality where the person is to be found, who are they talking about? They're talking about that incorporated individual living, i.e., in the locality, i.e., the municipality. And in that municipality, that's where you are to be found. You're an artificial entity operating in an artificial world, having artificial existence. That's why you are found within that. When I say you're an artificial entity, living in an artificial place. I'm not talking about something flying around invisibly or flying around in the air or living on a piece of paper. That's not what I'm saying. When I refer to artificial entity, I'm saying a statutory creature. You're operating from a certain capacity with certain rights and duties. So if you're in a car, you're a driver, and you have certain rights and duties. You're an artificial being, and you have certain rights and duties according to the Highway Safety Code. If you're a fisherman, while you're operating from that capacity as a fisherman, you're an artificial being, a statutory creature, and you have certain rights and duties and privileges, and you have to follow the Fisherman's Act or the Fisheries Act. If you're a hunter, the same thing. You're operating as a statutory creature. You have duties and responsibilities through the enactment, through the statutory powers, and you're expected to follow those obligations. When you're standing or operating as a person, i.e., an artificial entity, a statutory creature, what actually transpires is that your fundamental rights and freedoms, your natural rights and freedoms, they become limited or abridged. They are removed from you without you knowing, because the government comes to you and says, listen, you are now a hunter, a driver, a fisherman, for example, and as such you owe us obligations to these laws that we created. However, the laws that they created, what they don't tell you is that those laws, they are limiting and abridging your fundamental rights and freedoms. The government always seeks to interact with you as an artificial entity, as a statutory creature. So when you're asked for a piece of ID, whether it be your driver's license, your health insurance card, or whatever piece of ID it is, they're trying to get you to play the role or enter into the statutory creature. If you're at home, you're considered a resident of the municipality. Now, a lot of people, when they hear that, they think it just means, oh, I'm living in Montreal or I'm living in Toronto. But that's not what it means. That's not what it means. It actually means that you are incorporated into a corporate body. You are resident in the corporation. And if some of you have not been able to follow along for these past 5 minutes, I'm sorry for you, because the only one who's going to be able to defend your own self is your own self from what's going to potentially transpire here with this vaccination. And all these things that I'm bringing forth and that I'm talking about in this video, you need to know. You need to learn. And right now it's kind of crunch time. You're going to be learning on the fire, so to speak. So when you're brought before the judge and the issue is about the vaccination, it's going to be up to you to defend yourself before that judge, to exercise your fundamental rights and freedoms, which are contained and preserved under subsection 7 of the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms 1982. That burden, that responsibility is going to rest upon your shoulders. And if you're unable to defend yourself from the state and from the statutory laws, well, the latter part of that verse is going to apply to you and your family, which declares the following: that the judge may order that the person be taken to a specific place to be vaccinated. Using Article 126 as an example. So if a person fails to submit to a vaccination ordered under Section 123, a judge of the Court of Quebec or of the municipal courts of the cities of Montreal, Laval, or Quebec. Well, hang on a second here. The municipal courts of Montreal, Laval, or Quebec, you don't have the jurisdiction or the power to deal with a man or a woman, to deal with an individual seeking a constitutional challenge. You're a statutory creature, you're a statutory power, and the abilities you have to operate are given to you statutorily. And within your enactments, you don't have the ability to deal with a constitutional challenge. So if an individual is brought before your court and tells you that they're seeking a constitutional challenge because there have been a breach of their charter right and freedoms under Section 7 of the Constitution Act of 1982, then you don't have the authority to hear the case, and you have to suspend the case in order to give the person the right, in order to give the individual the ability to exercise their right, as guaranteed in the Charter, to contact the Attorney General and launch a constitutional challenge claiming that their rights and freedoms have been infringed by this operation of law that is being used against them. If you are taken before a judge of the Court of Quebec or a municipal judge, then your first conversation with this judge needs to be, I believe that my Section 7 Charter rights have been limited and abridged through this order that has been produced against me, and I'm seeking a constitutional challenge that this order which was produced would be declared null and void against me, because it is a breach of my fundamental rights and freedoms, my natural rights and freedoms found in Article 7. What they are attempting to force to do to me, what they are attempting to force to put inside of my body, it breaches my natural right to decide for myself what I will and will not take into my body. This is a fundamental right that I was born with. This is a natural right that I can express and I can exercise. And you don't have the ability to override it in law. And you should not use force of law or guns to my head to override this right and freedom that you are guaranteed to protect. If others want to take the vaccine, if others cannot protect themselves from your state power, I feel sorry for them. But that does not give you the right, and that does not give you the power to override my fundamental rights and freedoms and force me to be vaccinated. If every individual or every person in Canada was vaccinated but me, then the only harm I have created is potentially endangering myself by not accepting that vaccination. If there are others within Canada who do not get vaccinated, then the only harm they are creating is to themselves and to other individuals who have chosen not to accept the vaccination. Because apparently, according to your own scientific data, this vaccine is supposed to help stop the spread of the coronavirus and protect persons from catching the COVID-19. Therefore, the only endangerment that I would be creating would be to myself or to other consented individuals who have decided not to be vaccinated. The general population, those in the democratic society who have submitted and are vaccinated, will not suffer any repercussions from my actions because they are indeed vaccinated and protected from me if I am carrying the virus. They're going to have to prove, the Crown and the Attorney General, that your actions are going to be extremely detrimental to the general public. Yeah, good luck with that one, buddy. The real sad part about this is that maybe there is a couple of thousand people across Canada who would know how to defend themselves when push comes to shove in this situation. And the government knows that. I'll call them the rulers of the society know that. That's why they create these operations of laws in these statutory powers. Because they know that the individual, when faced with these operations of law, have no idea how to defend themselves. And they can limit and abridge, and they can force people to do things that they would otherwise not be able to if there was knowledge. It's a very evil and wicked system that's been created and that is in operation around us. And individuals are only beginning to feel the effect really right now through the limitation and abridgments of their civil rights, of their legal rights that they're experiencing. But nevertheless, it's a very, very bad system. They set it up, the legislators, the people in power, the individuals in power, they set up this system where, they have the obligation to guarantee and respect your fundamental rights and freedoms, your natural rights and freedoms. But primarily, they never teach you that you have them, so you don't know how to exercise them. And then they leave it in your hand. If you figure out that you have fundamental rights and freedoms, natural rights and freedoms, they leave it in your hand to defend yourself against them, against the executive power. You have to be the one to be able to go into the judiciary and show where the executive powers have limited and abridged your right through their statutory powers, through their laws that they created. So they make it extremely, extremely hard for the average individual to ever be able to defend themselves or to ever be able to exercise their fundamental human rights and freedoms. They do this in the letter of the law, in words on paper, while they speak with their mouths to the public and say how wonderful Canada is concerning human rights. And then when they talk about human rights here in Canada, they talk about Article 2 of the Constitution Act of 1982, which are not fundamental rights and freedoms of men and women, but are fundamental rights and freedoms that are exercisable within a civil society. The wicked masters, they say, okay, all individuals have these rights. They are born with these rights, God-given to some who believe in him or her. God-given. But we don't have to teach you them, and we don't have to show you how to exercise them or how to defend them. We'll create the doors and the pathways in the laws through written words on paper, but then we'll seal them shut and lock them closed. How? By never revealing them to you, by never teaching them to you. But we'll make sure that you understand you have obligations and duties to us, to our laws that we created, while the laws that we have obligation towards you, we hide them and conceal them. I'm not surprised at the behavior of the masters and the rulers, because this whole system is built upon the foundation of capitalism and the foundation of making money and getting money and being on top and walking over your competition. And we see it within the structure of the system and the control mechanisms that are in operation. Man's almighty dollar ruling decisions, ruling actions of those who claim to be in positions of power, rather than seeking to build a society that is based upon the betterment of man and the betterment of women. They built a society based upon the hunger for the enrichment of dollar bills. And you look around you, and this is what it's come to, and this is what we deal with, where now they control every action, basically, of your life. And everything you want to do costs you money. Do you want to go fishing? Pay us some money. Do you want to go hunting? Pay us some money. Do you want to drive? Pay us some money. Do you want education? Pay us some money. There was a wise saying that was put into the world, and you can hear it, wherein it says that the love of money is the root of all evil. Not that money itself is evil, but the love of it, that's the root of all evil. The jails are full of individuals tonight because they were chasing the love of money. The politicians, they line their pocket. They make evil decisions, wicked decisions, crooked decisions, immoral decisions. Why? Because they're able to line their pockets with money. Now, in the context of the coronavirus, the COVID-19, they're using that almighty dollar to try and destroy the individual, to try and destroy the man or woman, closing small shops, closing restaurants, and the like, destroying small businesses. There is way too much division between classes of persons. There is way too much division between men and women, between individuals. And that division was created not by the individuals themselves, but by being forced to operate within a system that is set up not to have the individual succeed, but to take from that individual from the moment they are able to stand on their own 2 feet, from the moment they are able to express their ability and their will. For example, you want to go to school. Well, if you don't have rich parents, if you don't have money, guess what? You got to get a loan from us. You got to get some money from us, from our banks, and you're going to put some interest rate on that, and you're going to be paying that back. And you want to get a car? Well, you got to give us money first so we can give you a license. This whole system works around that. The SARS and the MERS virus, they were coronaviruses also, and they appeared 20 years ago. Since their appearance in the world, Scientists have been working on a vaccination for these two viruses, and they have been unable to make any progress in securing a vaccination for these viruses. And now they're going to claim that within a matter of months, they are able to produce a vaccine for the same family line of coronavirus, COVID-19. The pharmaceutical companies, they have an agreement with the government, which is basically a no-fault agreement, which means that if you get sick or poisoned or die from the vaccine, that you cannot sue the pharmaceutical company directly. You can only sue the government body. If everyone is being forced to be vaccinated and the vaccination is not ready, is not safe, and there are going to be much side effects to this vaccination, this is not a good situation that individuals are going to be facing in the near future. The same ones who strip you of your fundamental rights and freedoms, who hide your natural rights and freedoms within words on paper, are going to be the ones who tell you that, yes, it's safe. We have scientific data that shows that this vaccine is safe. I'm going to let you draw your own conclusion as to why they're trying to force vaccination, or why they're creating a vaccine so quickly that they're willing to put out to the public. And then now that we know that they have statutory powers which give them the ability to force the population to be vaccinated, what is going on here? That's up for you to decide. That's up for you to find out. Remember, please don't go down to your local grocery store. Please don't go down to support the small business that are being run by individuals like you and I, who are trying to make a living, trying to earn a living. Go only to Walmart and to the big stores, because at Walmart and the big stores, the coronavirus, the COVID-19, it doesn't affect you as much. But according to what the government tells you, if you go to the smaller stores, to the non-brand name grocery stores, then the COVID-19 is lurking there extremely powerfully. So remember, the COVID-19 is able to discern between a small grocery store and Walmart or a big box store. Please, also don't forget to download the COVID-19 app, the tracing app that the government is offering you. They sent a message to people's phones telling them that they should download this app. It's important that you download this app because if you come in contact with someone that has the COVID-19, or if you are in an area where someone had the COVID-19, and then they can really say that you were in that place, and they can really suspect you of being contagious and carrying the disease. And therefore, they can mandate and they can force you to come and get vaccinated because they have the proof that you were around someone who had COVID-19, and they can suspect that you have it, and that alone is enough in their laws to mandate the vaccine. So please be very, very intelligent and download that app and set yourself up.